Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. If you're just joining us now, I recommend subscribing to our channel and checking out our previous video about angels. In angelology, various religions have different hierarchical systems for angels. The higher ranks have greater authority over the lower ranks. These ranks have differences in appearance, such as varying numbers of wings or faces. In this video, I want to focus specifically on Judaism and Jewish tradition. The Jewish angelic hierarchy exists in the Jewish Bible, the Talmud, rabbinic literature, and traditional Jewish liturgy. There are different hierarchies proposed by various theologians. For example, the Jewish philosopher Maimonides enumerates 10 ranks of angels. Other theologians and philosophers mostly also list 10 ranks, but differ in the placement of these angels within the hierarchy. However, I'll focus on Maimonides and his ranking system because I find it the most intriguing. Let's start from the last, the 10th rank, and work our way up to the top of the pyramid. Here we go. Ishim, the lowest rank of angels in Maimonides' cosmology. Maimonides writes that Ishim are angels who speak with prophets and appear to them in visions. They are sometimes even called humans because their level is almost within reach of human understanding. They are composed of fire and snow and described as beautiful souls of righteous people who dwell in Ma'on, the 5th heaven. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this fascinating topic and subscribe to our channel for more enlightening content. In Judaism and some other religious traditions, the term Ma'on can refer to the 5th heaven or the 5th level of celestial spheres. Typically, the cosmological model consists of 9 celestial levels or spheres, with each level having its unique function and angels governing these spheres. However, it's worth noting that the specific interpretation of the 5th heaven may vary in different traditions and interpretations. According to Abrahamic religions, cherubim are celestial beings that directly address God. There are quite a few cherubim, and their numerous depictions assign them various roles, such as guarding the entrance to the Garden of Eden. In the Jewish angelic hierarchy, cherubim hold the 9th rank, which is the penultimate rank. In the Israelite faith, cherubim are described as performing various functions, most commonly depicted as those who strengthen the throne of Yahweh. Ezekiel's vision, where he talks about cherubim, follows these characteristics. According to him, the combined span of the wings of the 4 cherubim is described as forming the boundaries of the divine chariot. Similarly, on the golden lid of the Ark of the Covenant, 2 cherubim flank the Ark, creating a space through which Yahweh manifests, although the text provides no details about these angels. Ezekiel's visions also depict cherubim as a sort of conveyance for Yahweh. The Ark of the Covenant was a sacred chest of the Israelites containing the tablets of the law, the so-called 10 Commandments, and served as a symbol of God's presence and covenant with Israel. It is described as a wooden chest overlaid with pure gold, with an intricately crafted lid called the mercy seat. According to the book of Exodus, the Ark contained 2 stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. Additionally, according to the Epistle to the Hebrews in the New Testament, it also held Aaron's rod and a jar of manna. The traditional Jewish conception of cherubim as guardians of the Garden of Eden is supported by Semitic beliefs in beings with superhuman strength and devoid of human feelings. Their duty was to guard God's sanctuaries and to slay wrongdoers. Apart from Ezekiel's vision, there are no detailed confirmations of the external appearance of cherubim. It's also worth noting that Ezekiel's description of tetramorphic beings may not align with the cherubim of historical Israelites. Everything known about Israelite cherubim comes from potential equivalents in cultures surrounding them. In the book of Ezekiel, and at least some Christian icons, cherubim are depicted with 2 pairs of wings and 4 faces. That of a lion representing all wild animals, an ox representing domestic animals, a human representing humanity, and an eagle representing birds. As described by Ezekiel, their feet were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. Later, tradition began to attribute various physical features to them. In Western Christian tradition, cherubim became associated with putti, the image of a winged boy, prominent in Renaissance and Baroque art. This led many artists to depict cherubim as small, chubby, winged boys. Somehow, this doesn't quite align with what I just told you about the tetramorph and quadri-winged being, does it? The appearance of cherubim continues to be a subject of discussion. It's worth noting that mythological hybrids were very common in the art of the ancient Near East. American archaeologist William Albright argued that the winged lion with a human head found in Phoenicia and Canaan from the late Bronze Age is much more widespread than any other winged creature. So much so that its identification with the cherub is unquestionable. Perhaps this image derives from the Hittite griffin with a human body, which, unlike other griffins, almost always appears not as a fierce predatory bird, but as one calmly seated, displaying its dignity as the guardian of sacred objects and artifacts. Some scholars suggest that the word griffin may even be related to the word cherub. Ezekiel initially describes tetramorphic cherubim as having 4 animal faces, and then in the 10th chapter of his Revelations, this formula is repeated slightly differently, namely as the face of the cherub, the face of a human, the face of a lion, the face of an eagle. That is, the ox was replaced by the cherub. From this, some scholars have concluded that cherubim had the head of a large horned animal. This is interesting because numerous works of art from Phoenicia, ancient Egypt, and even Megiddo in northern Israel depict kings or deities being carried on their thrones by hybrid winged creatures. But if the ancient Israelites imagined cherubim precisely in this animalistic form, it raises more questions than it answers. Firstly, it's hard to imagine the cherubim of the Ark of the Covenant as 4-legged creatures with wings turned backward, since these cherubim were supposed to face each other with their wings touching to form an arch, and this arch is supposed to delineate a kind of portal through which Yahweh would appear. On the other hand, even if the cherubim had a more humanoid form, it still wouldn't fully correspond to Ezekiel's vision. Also, it's worth noting that it would contradict the equivalent archetypes in the cultures surrounding the Israelites at that time, as they all depicted creatures serving similar purposes in nearly identical ways. All of this may suggest that the Israelite conception of the appearance of cherubim may not have been entirely consistent. Cherubim are celestial beings most commonly encountered in the Bible. This word appears in the book 91 times. Despite these numerous mentions, the role of cherubim is never explicitly explained. Although Jewish tradition perceives cherubim as guardians of the Garden of Eden, where they protect the path to the tree of life, they are often depicted in various other roles. For example, in the book of Ezekiel, they bear the throne of Yahweh. In the book of Exodus, God instructs Moses to make several images of cherubim at specific points around the Ark of the Covenant. Indeed, they are present on the Ark itself, judging from its description and existing illustrations. According to the Bible, God spoke to Moses from between the 2 cherubim on the lid of this ark. As I mentioned earlier, this lid is called the mercy seat. This means that God was supposed to speak to Moses from the same ark I mentioned earlier, from the arch formed by the wings of the 2 cherubim on the ark's lid. So it's quite a remarkable but very intriguing artifact. In the book of Ezekiel, cherubim are mentioned in quite some detail. Although they first appear in the 1st chapter, where they carry the throne of God by the river Kebar, they are not called cherubim until the 10th chapter. Again, I'll remind you that in Ezekiel, cherubim have a human likeness and 4 faces. These faces represent the 4 spheres of God's rule. They protrude from the center of a crossroads with 4 wings. These wings are joined together, 2 of them stretched upwards, and 2 covering their bodies. Under their wings are human hands. Their feet are described as calf's feet, shining like polished bronze. Between the creatures was seen burning coals, which moved between them. Their fire went up and down, and lightning flashed from the fire. The cherubim themselves also moved like flashes of lightning. In rabbinic literature, only 2 cherubim are described as human-like figures with wings, one a boy and the other a girl. The Talmud mentions the cherubim among 5 items that were present in the first, but not in the second temple. In the same tractate, it is explained that at the destruction of the first temple, upon seeing the cherubim, pagans began to ridicule the Jews, believing they worshipped statues rather than God. For this reason, cherubim in the second temple will no longer be separate statues. Instead, they will be carved into the walls. It should be noted that in the Talmud, which describes the heavens and celestial beings, only 3 types of celestial beings are mentioned. Seraphim, Ophanim, and Hayat and Cherubim are not mentioned at all. These 3 types are also mentioned in ancient Jewish liturgy. It should be noted that in Judaism, there is a wide range of beliefs about who angels really are, and how biblical passages related to them should be interpreted literally. In Kabbalah, there has long been a strong belief in cherubim and other angels, which were considered to fulfill mystical roles. The Book of Zohar, the main and most famous book of the millennia-old heritage of Kabbalistic literature, states that cherubim were led by a cherub named Cherubim. Cherubim are also discussed in Midrashic literature. 2 cherubim were placed by God at the entrance to paradise. They were angels created on the 3rd day, and therefore they had no fixed form. They appeared as men, women, spirits, or so-called angelic beings. Cherubim were the first objects created in the universe. In the Midrash, a fascinating narrative unfolds, illustrating a hierarchy of communication between different entities, from the human body to the highest celestial beings. When a person sleeps, their body communicates with the soul, which then relays information to the spirit. The spirit passes it on to an angel, who, in turn, passes it to a cherub. And finally, the cherub reports to a seraph, who delivers the message to God. This depiction suggests a complex network of intermediaries, culminating in God's omniscience. Interestingly, the cherubim, despite their pivotal role in this communication chain, are described as ethereal beings devoid of material substance. They serve as a means for God to observe and oversee events in His world, with the imagery of God sitting upon the cherubim, suggesting a divine vantage point from which He surveys the heavens. Moreover, the Midrash highlights the significance of the cherubim present on the Ark of the Covenant, associating them with 2 attributes of God: mercy, represented by the Tetragrammaton, and justice, represented by Elohim. This underscores the symbolic importance of the cherubim in Jewish tradition, as they embody fundamental aspects of God's character. Throughout Jewish tradition, the depiction of cherubim has evolved, with early interpretations suggesting youthful human-like features. However, the precise form of these celestial beings remains a matter of speculation, as noted by Josephus in the 1st century CE. Nonetheless, cherubim hold a significant place in Jewish angelology, ranking just below the sons of God in the celestial hierarchy. The term Bene Elohim, literally meaning sons of God, is a phrase found in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, and in Christian apocryphal texts. It is also used in Kabbalah as part of various Jewish angelic hierarchies. The first mention of the sons of God in the Jewish Bible appears in the book of Genesis. Etymologically, this phrase is typically associated with Yahwistic tradition. The book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible and the opening of the Pentateuch, or Torah, recounts the following narrative. As men began to multiply on earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves whomever they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not remain in man forever, because he is also flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days. And also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown." These verses from Genesis depict a mysterious episode involving the intermingling of divine beings with humanity, giving rise to extraordinary offspring known as giants or mighty men of old. This narrative has sparked various interpretations and discussions regarding the identity and nature of these sons of God and their role in ancient mythology and religious beliefs. The phrase Bene Elohim, meaning sons of God, has sparked millennia-long debates regarding its meaning, with multiple interpretations emerging over time. Here are three of them. 1. ***, descendants of Seth. The earliest references to the descendants of Seth, who rebelled against God and intermarried with the daughters of Cain, appear in Christian and rabbinic literature from the 2nd century CE. This interpretation is also reflected in the contemporary canonical Ethiopian Orthodox Bible. In Judaism, sons of God typically refer to the righteous, namely the children of Seth, who was the third son of Adam and Eve. 2. ***angels. The most ancient sources interpret the sons of God as angels. Starting from the 3rd century BCE, references to them can be found in Enochic literature, the Dead Sea Scrolls, writings of Josephus Flavius, and the Book of Jude. This interpretation sees the sons of God as fallen angels who engaged in unnatural unions with human women, leading to the birth of Nephilim. 3. ***, deified kings, judges, or tyrants. According to this interpretation, the sons of God were revered kings, judges, or tyrants. They were considered to be pagan royal figures or members of the nobility who, out of lust, married women from the general populace. This view suggests that these individuals were tyrannical rulers of ancient Near Eastern city-states, from which the early Proto-Israelites eventually fled to settle in the Judean highlands. Rabbinic Judaism traditionally adheres to the first interpretation. The second interpretation is essentially absent in contemporary Judaism. Christian writers viewed the sons of God in the Book of Genesis as fallen angels who engaged in unnatural unions with human women, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim. Medieval Jewish traditionalists and philosophers often practiced rational theology, rejecting belief in angelic rebellions or fallen angels as evil was considered abstract. Rabbinic sources assert that the sons of God, who married human daughters, were simply men of high social status. They were also viewed as pagan royal figures or members of the nobility who, out of lust, married women from the general populace. Despite differences in interpretation, the main concept among Jewish rationalists is that the sons of God were of human origin. Abraham Ibn Ezra, a medieval Jewish scholar and poet, speculated that the sons of God were individuals with divine power obtained through astrological knowledge. He believed they were capable of giving birth to extraordinarily large and supernaturally strong children. There's also a concept that the sons of God were older generations closer to physical perfection. Since the first humans, Adam and Eve, were perfect, the idea was that their ideal traits were passed down through generations. However, with each successive generation, these traits diminished. This physical decline continued until the time of the flood, as mentioned in the Book of Genesis. Some scholars, like Yaakov Anatoly and Isaac Abarbanel, viewed the events in the Book of Genesis as allegorical, primarily portraying the sin of lust, which deprived humans of their higher nature. So, wrapping up, I hope this video sheds some light on the fascinating topics of cherubim and the sons of God. Personally, delving into the intricacies of these ancient concepts has been truly enlightening. But I'm also eager to hear your take on it. What are your thoughts on the roles of cherubim and the significance of the sons of God in religious narratives? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this content and want to see more like it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.